Hello, welcome back guys. Coach Cooper here. Thanks everybody for watching. In this video I'm going to be breaking down a little bit of the Final Four and the National Championship games. The tournament's over. I felt like it was a great NCAA tournament. It always is. Never disappoints. I felt like this year there really wasn't a big push from a mid-major team. Power conference teams and the power schools kind of were able to thwart any Cinderella stories this season. I think the highest seed to advance was Oregon to the Sweet 16, and they're a power conference team even though they were seeded where they were. So Final Four, first game, you had Virginia versus Auburn. Amazing game, a clash of two styles. I broke that down in an earlier video. I did predict Virginia to win, so I was able to get that one right. Barely get that one right. And by me predicting that, I really wasn't rooting against Auburn or for Virginia. I just like watching good basketball. That's just how I thought it would play out. It was an excellent game. Auburn was able to really go on a huge run and basically take control of the game down the stretch, and then Virginia was able to claw back as they have done all season. A little bit of controversy at the end. I do believe that was a foul that had to be called when the player hit Kyle Guy. You got to protect the shooter. You got to give the shooter room to land, and especially the way that he kind of made Kyle Guy's legs cross as he's in the air. That's gonna be enough right there to affect the shot. So even though there was a lot of controversy around that call, I do believe that was a call that had to be made there. And then in the Texas Tech Michigan State game, Texas Tech was able to control that game, and I was definitely wrong about that. I thought that Michigan State's balance would be the difference, but ended up being the other way around. And man, Chris Beard's team, they defend with so much energy. You can just feel the energy that he's able to instill in those guys, and it's awesome. It's awesome to watch those guys defend as well as Virginia. I didn't think. Well, before I get into the championship game, I'll finish just summarizing that game. Michigan State was able to make a late run, and I thought maybe that they would, at least make it close down the stretch. But Mooney made some big shots, and it was big for Texas Tech when Tariq Owens went out. They were able to, kind of ride the ship there. And they were able to pull it out. It was an excellent game, excellent coached game by Texas Tech staff on that. So then that set up the national championship, University of Virginia versus Texas Tech. Now, going into this game, and I like many others, I was not sure how either team would score on each other. Now, obviously, it ended up being one team scoring 80 points. But both teams did score only 5 points before the first media timeout, and then Texas Tech started making shots. Virginia, was pretty steady there. So going into the game, I thought that it'd be a really, really low scoring game. It didn't turn out to be, but it was there at one point. So just getting into the game a little bit, I think that one of the keys, just looking back at the stats, one of the keys for Texas Tech to stay in the game like they did and almost win they almost won this game, had 29 bench points. 29 bench points. Kyler Edwards and Brandon Francis, I think his first name is Brandon, they came off the bench. They combined for 29 points off the bench to UVA's 6. That's huge. When you get that, in any game, you're going to have a chance to win when your bench scores that many points. Virginia was only able to get 6 points from their bench. So that was really big for Texas Tech to stay in the game. Like I said, both teams scored only 5 points before the first media timeout. They shot 11% from the field. Texas Tech missed their first 8 shots. They missed their first 8 shots, and I do not believe that they were even good looks. Virginia was ready to roll from the beginning. As the half progressed, Texas Tech started. I'll give it to him. Chris Beer, man, he had plan A, plan B, and plan C for this game. I mean, he adjusted very well offensively throughout this game. And you might say, you know, just because a team didn't shoot well from the field or this or that doesn't mean you didn't have a good plan. I mean, as a coach, all you can do is put the guys in the best position possible, and then you can't control whether the ball goes in or not. You can just put those guys in good positions. And I thought he did an excellent job of adjusting on the fly and never letting Virginia really get used to one thing that they were doing. They shot 42% from 2 and 33% from 3. 33% from 3. That's a lot of threes to say. They were 10 of 30 from 3. In my opinion, that is, there's definitely outliers. There's always going to be outliers, but for the most part, I think the only way to beat Virginia is just to have an absolute excellent shooting night from the perimeter. They took 33s, guys. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of threes. I only made 10. They make a couple more, maybe they're the national champions. So that's kind of some stats from Texas Tech there. 42% from 2, 33% from 3, 29 bench points to UVA 6. So for Virginia, we talked about the bench points from Texas Tech. What kept Virginia in the game, their big three combined for 67 points. So if you get, that's big. Texas Tech, they probably come into the game, and they would probably have been okay with 2 of those guys getting off, but it's hard to win when you let the other team's best 3 players get off the way they did. And those guys are great players. I mean, Jerome, man, he makes some tough shots. He makes some rec league shots, some horse shots, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm trying to say. He's a tough shot maker. Virginia shot 46% from 2 and 46% from 3. So that's big. The number one thing that won the national championship for UVA, and I don't think this is debatable, 20 of 23 from the free throw line. I mean, you can't get much better than that. When you shoot that well from the line and you shoot that many, you're going to be hard to beat. And it was amazing that Texas Tech was as close to winning that game as they were. I mean, they were up 3, 17 seconds to go, and Ty Jerome finds DeAndre Hunter to tie the game on a 3. So that's how close Texas Tech was, to winning that game. Shout out to DeAndre Hunter. I think he's the best, on-ball defender in the country and one of the best I've ever seen. Jarrett Culver was 5 of 22 for 15 points in 41 minutes. And most of that was with DeAndre Hunter guarding him. Now, he scored on DeAndre Hunter a few times, but for the most part, no, he did not. 5 of 22 from the field, and he didn't make a 3. I think he was 0 of 6 maybe from 3, if I remember that right. Jarrett Culver's an excellent basketball player. DeAndre Hunter's an excellent basketball player and defender. That was a fun matchup. I was looking forward to that matchup coming into the game, and it didn't disappoint. Those guys got matched up on each other a lot. And taking nothing away from Jarrett Culver, but I do think, obviously shooting 5 of 22, that means DeAndre Hunter got the best of that matchup on that night. So that's some statistical breakdowns from the game. It is always so easy in hindsight to go back and talk about a few plays. But I also think it's fair sometimes. And, some things they may be hypothetical, but, I just like thinking about it like I said earlier, Texas Tech was up 3, about 17 and a half, 18 seconds to go. Virginia's got the basketball. Ty Jerome's able to get a lane to the rim, and there was nobody in the paint. Virginia had 5 guys on the arc. In that situation, if I'm Texas Tech, you know, I would say just guard the arc, let him lay that basketball in, get the ball in, get fouled, um, and go to the free throw line. Instead, when Jerome was able to get into the paint, Texas Tech collapsed, um, giving that easy driving kick 3 to DeAndre Hunter in the corner, which subsequently tied the game. Like I said, it's so easy in hindsight to go back and pick apart plays. I just think in that situation, let him lay that ball in, and trust yourself and your teammates to make free throws to extend the game. That's about the only thing I could think of right now that was on my mind as far as just small technical things that I saw in the game. The only other thing that I'll talk about before I get into some X's and O's, if you would have told me in this game before the game, if you would have told me that Virginia's not going to run but maybe 2 possessions of mover blocker in the second half, and they're going to win this game, I would have probably told you, to go get checked out. I mean, I knew that Texas Tech could possibly disrupt their mover blocker with the way that they, deny and guard and pressure the ball. But man, I'm not going to sit here and act like I thought that they could get Virginia completely out of it. They got Virginia completely out of mover blocker, and I didn't see a possession of it, down, I may have seen 2 possessions in the second half, and I would doubt that there was 10 possessions in the whole game. Maybe I'm wrong, but for the most part, they got Virginia completely out of that. And man, that is what they do. I know that they've put some spread ball screen stuff in to mask with their mover blocker, but man, that's what they do. And for Texas Tech to be able to get them completely out of it, but yet Virginia still wins the game, hats off to Virginia. That's awesome. That's what the game's about, adjusting. I love it. All right, let's get into some sets here that I liked from the game. This first one is going to be like a blur flare action from Texas Tech. I really like these actions. We use these, at the high school level that I coach at. I'm an assistant coach at the high school level, and I coach a junior high basketball. This past season, we put in a lot of blur cuts, a lot of inside cut drives, and our offense improved from the year before. So here's a combination of a blur screen in combination with a flare screen. So one's going to throw it to 3, and 3's immediately throwing back. That's just false motion. One's going to crack it to 2, and then he's going to make an inside cut or a blur cut, whatever terminology you want to use there. As 2's driving into the gap, as you can see, 5's going to come set a flare for 3. And why is that important? It occupies the help. So as the 2's driving into this gap, if 5 just stands and 3 just stands, they're going to plug all this up right here. They're going to plug all this up. By making the defense have to think and guard an action, that opens that lane up. These guys can't stand in gaps because they got to guard the flare. That distracts them. That occupies the help. I can't express how important that is enough. When you're in the half-court offense and anything you do, you've got to be able to occupy, help defense, especially against a really good defensive team. You got to do that. So I was kind of surprised that Texas Tech didn't go back to this more. They ran it, I think, 2 or 3 possessions in a row midway through the first half. Man, and I really thought I really thought they'd go back to this because they had Culver as 2, as I have 2. That was Culver last night. Then they had Mooney off the flare. So that's a good action. You got, maybe not statistically. I think Francis statistically is their best shooter, but one of your best shooters coming off a flare, and by far your best playmaker coming downhill. I was just surprised they didn't use that more, but they ran some other stuff and got good looks out of that too. So that's the Texas Tech blur flare action. Good stuff right there. One more from Texas Tech, Iverson Point Ricky. They ran this. They ran this first action right here and right here a lot with some different stuff. I love. I think it's just smart. To use the same looks but different actions. I think that's smart, especially against a good defense. And maybe one of the best defenses of all time last night in Virginia. So 2's just going to make an Iverson cut for a catch. Simple enough. Come to frame 2. After throwing to 2, 1's going to come off a back screen from 5. All right. And I talked about it in my last video, I believe, or the video before, about a Ricky cut. I came across this from Tom Crean. I'm sure other coaches have used it, but I became familiar with this cut from Tom Crean. He used to run this for Yogi Ferrell a lot. I'm from the state of Indiana, so I know a lot about, Indiana basketball. Obviously watch them a lot. If you're from the state of Indiana, you know the tradition behind that. So Yogi Ferrell, one of the best point guards to ever play at IU. Tom Crean would use a Ricky cut with him quite a bit. So 1's going to come off the back screen from 5, and he's immediately going to get a rescreen, aka Ricky cut. So that's Iverson Point Ricky. They're able to get a good look off of that from Mooney, I believe. Now, a couple other stuff that you can do with this, and they did it as well. They call it their hot action. So sometimes after this back screen, 4 would fill, 1 would get out of there, and here's Jarrett Culver. And after the back screen, we're going to come set that ball screen. They were able to get some good stuff out of that as well. If you just want to freelance this a little bit, for you coaches out there that maybe you have a big or something, I can fast build this over here. If you wanted to come set this down screen a little bit lower, like that, and then you'd end up with this. 1 gets his catch. If he doesn't have a shot and you got a big right there, you could get a good post catch there, potentially. That's just something for, any coaches watching this. That might be a good action. You end up with pretty good spacing there for round 1. So that's another little action that you could run out of that formation. All right, so that was Texas Tech Point Ricky. Just got one from Virginia. I haven't gotten into a lot of X's and O's from Virginia just because, they run good stuff, but they're more about defending, grinding you out, and most people know their most common actions. But here was a really good action from them, that I hadn't seen them run. I'm sure there's guys that watch a lot more film and a lot more games than me, but it's the first time that I'd seen it. Virginia middle punch. It's kind of early offense for Virginia. They'd have Jerome or whoever come down here. This 4 is DeAndre Hunter, and he's going to set this little pin down for 5 and then duck in off of it. And they were able to get that. You don't see that angle much. So that was kind of a unique set from Virginia right there. If you just want to freelance coaches, if you got a big that can score and you're struggling to get him post catches, make him a screener. There's a lot of actions that you can run, flex screens and then he ducking in off the flex screen. So what I mean by that is, and I know I'm going off topic, guys. I just, I'm sure there's coaches watching this, and I'm sure there's coaches smarter than me. I'm just throwing out my 2 cents here. But this is a common look from Texas Tech, and the head coach at the school that I coach at, that I also played for, excellent coach. He's ran a set like this for a long time at our school. We call it Cincinnati, but it starts with a flex cut like this. So we'll start with the flex cut, and the way our coach does it, we'll get a catch at this elbow, but for right now, for just simplicity, I'm just going to show you the action. But he'll set this good, and we tell him, you got to screen somebody. If you want to be open, you got to hit them. And he'll set the flex screen, and then he's ducking in. It's kind of hard to get the angle that I really want on fast draw, but Tennessee ran a lot of this with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield. But after that flex screen, he's ducking in off of that, because if you get Four's defender to help at all, you're gonna have him buried. And then if they switch, even better. Then you got big on small, force them to double, and force them to scramble. So if you got a big and you're struggling to get in post catches, or you want some ideas to get in post catches, flex screens is a good way to start. I got a lot of other good, sets to get some post touches too. Message me on Twitter, email me, comment down here with your email. I'll send stuff to you, whatever you need. So that was the national championship game. Excellent game. It was refreshing to see, some veteran teams get to the Final Four and win it. It's been freshman dominated. At least the narrative has been freshman dominated, but there's been some good veteran teams win it in the past as well. But I'd like to see college basketball get back to, I just like this. I like this more. Veteran teams that have played together, they mesh together. There's chemistry. I love watching those type of teams as well. So it was a great national championship. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Kind of sad that March Madness is over. We still got the NBA playoffs coming up. I do plan on getting some videos out on that. And I'm thinking about doing some videos just on some specific sets. You can see here in my fast draw, I've got plenty to break down. So that's something that I'm thinking about doing as well. Coaches, if you're watching this and you're wondering what the heck am I using right now, this is Fast Draw from Fast Model Sports. This is a software that they've created and designed for coaches. Thousands of college coaches use it. Obviously, I'm a high school assistant coach and a junior high coach, and I use it. I love it. It's perfect for scouting. It's perfect for making playbooks for your team that are more understandable, because I know, like me, my handwriting sucks, so I'm able to get on here and I'm getting decent with it. It's just an excellent way to organize your playbooks and your sets and your half-court offense and whatever it may be. It's excellent software from Fast Model Sports. You can go to their website. Right here is their website, guys. Fast Model Sports. Here's my profile. I have 40 exactly sets on here that you can go on and look at, download, print, whatever you want to do. I have a lot more than this on my Fast Draw. So if there's something on here, or there's something not on here that you're curious about, a certain action that you're curious about, comment below, email me, message me on Twitter. I'll get back with you on that. So there's my Fast Model Sports profile, but you can go on Fast Model Sports and purchase Fast Draw, download it. It's excellent software. It's definitely a bargain for coaches. So that's going to be the end of this video, guys. I'm still going to be putting out content on Fast Model on Twitter, so follow me on there at CoachCoop20. Consider liking this video, consider subscribing. Leave your comments and your thoughts. I appreciate all those. And we'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you.